Welcome everyone, as we have discussed in the previous video about an abbreviated tax invoice and its posting in the application. Now in this video, we will discuss the sales return and its report. At first, let's see what is a sales return. A sales return, which is also known as a credit note, is a transaction in which a customer returns or refunds a product or service that they previously purchased from a business. The IMS software allows you to perform 3 different types of a credit note. The first one is to do a manual sales return, which refers to returning the item one by one without selecting the invoice. Things to consider before performing manual sales return. Manual sales return is performed for the items that were sold before the installation of IMS software. In manual sales return, client have to find the sales invoice number from either the previous application, or bill pad in case of manual billing. In manual sales return, quantity and rate can be entered as per the client's requirement. After that, the second type is to do a full return, where all the products in the invoice will be loaded and can be returned at once. Things to consider before performing full sales return. Full sales return can be performed to only invoices that are generated from IMS software. Full sales return will be saved on the basis of the sales invoice number. Full sales return will return all the items from the sales invoice at once. In full sales return, nothing can't be edited except return mode. And the last type is to do a partial return, where you can select an invoice and return any item from that invoice. Things to consider before performing partial sales return. Partial sales return can be performed to only invoices that are generated from IMS software. Partial sales return will be saved on the basis of the sales invoice number. Partial sales return will return the limited items from the sales invoice. In partial sales return, quantity and return mode can be edited as per the client's requirement. Now let's look at how to do sales return manually in the application. Simply go to the transaction, click on sales, and from that drop-down select credit note, which is also indicated as sales return. As you can see on this credit note page, where do full return has already been selected as your default credit note type, but we will look at how to do a manual sales return, so first tick on do manual sales return. Now let's look into this credit note number, which is generated by IMS software each time you perform a sales return. After that, the invoice date and entry date should be same as the current date. Now a reference bill number is a unique sequential code for this invoice. You can manually enter the reference number or letter for this invoice. We will use TI201, and you have to use any reference number or letters as per your requirement. So after that, return mode, it is a way or method in which item are returned. As you can see, credit has already been selected as your default return mode. IMS software will list return mode under this drop-down as credit, cash, credit card, and check deposit. You can select any one of the return modes as per your requirement. For this video we will select cash. If you need to pay the customer with cash, then select cash as your return mode. After that, IMS software automatically fills the account area with cash in hand. Click on this account section and press enter to select another account as per your requirement. Now click on this customer section and press enter. The list of customers will appear here. Select the customer and the details you entered will autofill in these sections. After that, in this warehouse section, the default warehouse has already been selected for the user. Click on this section and press enter to select other warehouses as per your requirement. You have to provide remarks for this sales return transaction. For this video we will write damaged product. You can give any remarks as per your requirement. Simply scan the product barcode and the product which is assigned to that barcode will be displayed here. We have already explained how barcode works in our separate video. Now, if you click on the description area and press enter, then you will be able to select the items that you have created through Product Master. You can also manually search for the item on the basis of these filters. We'll select the item code to search for an item. First, let's select the set wet, which is a VAT product. After that, the unit that was selected when adding the product will be displayed here. If that product has an alternative unit, you can select it from this drop down. Now enter the quantity that is returned by the customer. So after that, the rate column will display the product's selling price excluding VAT. You can also edit the rate of this item as per your requirement. Let's look into the amount section, where the amount will be calculated accordingly to the quantity and the rate that you have entered. Now if you offered a discount during a sales transaction, you can include that discount in these sections as needed. As you can see in the VAT column, 13% of the VAT calculated from the rate of this item will be displayed here. This VAT will be added to the amount and displayed in the net amount of this product. If you entered an expiry date while adding this product, it will be displayed here. After that, if the customer has more items to return, then you can click on this add icon to add more rows. If you need to remove a row, simply press this cross icon. After that, click the Save button or press End on your keyboard to save the sales return invoice. Now from this pop-up, you can select the print format for this invoice. You can also print this sales return invoice from either a 3mm receipt printer or an A4 laser printer depending on your needs. For this invoice we will select A4 and click on Print. As you can see, only one invoice is printed from the software which is to be provided to the customer. To print this tax invoice, click the Print button. The invoice will be printed depending on your printer. Now click on this View button or press F4 on your keyboard to view the invoice details. You won't be able to edit this voucher in view mode. You can also print this sales return invoice from the view mode. Click on this Print button or press F8 on your keyboard to print this sales return invoice. This is the invoice that will be printed from the view mode. It is printed twice, so it is indicated as a copy of the original one. Now click this Reset button or press F3 on your keyboard to clear everything that you have entered on the current voucher. After that, click on this Back button to go to the dashboard. Now let's look into the second type of credit note, which is to do a full return, where all the products in the invoice will be loaded and can be returned at once. After that, let's look into the credit note page, where Do Full Return has already been selected as your default credit note type. We will continue with it. Now click on this reference bill number and press Enter to select the transacted invoices, as there are two invoices that are transacted from the application, and they are Sales Tax Invoice STI, and Abbreviated Tax Invoice as SI. You can select any one of the invoices as per your requirement. For this video, we will select the Sales Tax Invoice transaction which is indicated as TI, and after that, the items that were added to this invoice will be displayed here. Now let's look into the return mode, where the sales return voucher has already been selected as your default return mode. A sales return voucher is used in the case when the customer returns the items in exchange, or a replacement for another item of similar amounts. You can also change this return mode from this drop-down as per your requirement. Sales return voucher is only available when the transaction of that invoice is done through cash. For this video, we will continue with the sales return voucher. After that, the details will be autofill accordingly to the invoice that you have saved while performing the sales transaction, which cannot be changed. You have to provide remarks for this sales return transaction. For this video we will write damaged product. You can give any remarks as per your requirement. Please keep in mind that you are unable to add or remove any items from this invoice while performing a full return. After that, click on the Save button or press End on your keyboard to save the credit note. Now you can select the print format from this pop-up. You can also print this sales return invoice from either a 3mm receipt printer or an A4 laser printer depending on your needs. For this invoice we'll select 3mm receipt printer and click on Print. As you can see, only one invoice is printed from the software which is to be provided to the customer. After that, as we performed the credit note by selecting a tax invoice with a sales return voucher as a return mode, now we will look into the tax invoice and perform a transaction of that credit note. First, let's enter all the necessary detail for this invoice. Please keep in mind that you have to select the same customer as you have selected while performing that credit note, because the customer has returned the item, and in exchange or replacement of that item they will take another item with a similar amounts. Now from this description section, let's add another item with a similar amounts. After that, click on Save or press End on your keyboard to save the tax invoice. Now let's look at the detail of this invoice from this bill tender mode, where the tender amount will be added after selecting the credit note invoice. The bill amount is the net amount of this invoice. The due amount is the amount that the customer need to pay for this invoice. Change amount is the amount if the customer makes payment of more than bill amount. The same detail of due amount and change amount is also displayed here. After that, select Sales Return Voucher as a payment mode, then click on this credit note number section, and press Enter to select the credit note invoice that we have just created. You can also search for the credit note invoice on the basis of these filter. We will select the voucher number to search for the invoice. After selecting the credit note invoice, the net amount of that invoice will be autofill in this section, then click on Add. It will display the amount with its payment mode. If you take a look at this due amount, then there is still some amount that the customer need to pay for this invoice. For now we will select cash as our second payment option, click on cash, then click on balance amount to enter the total due amount of this invoice, and click on Add. As you can see in this section, there are two payment options that we have selected for this invoice. Please make sure that the customer has to take more amount of items in exchange for taking another item. Now click on Save button or press End on your keyboard to save the tax invoice. After that, let's look into the last type of credit note, which is to do a partial return, where you can select an invoice and return any item from it. Now let's look into the credit note page. Simply untick these two boxes to perform a partial sales return. So after that, click on these reference bill number and press Enter to select the transacted invoices. Select the invoice and the detail of that invoice will autofill in these sections. You have to provide remarks for this sales return transaction. For this video we will write damaged product. You can give any remarks as per your requirement. Now click on this description section and press Enter to select the item that is only added to this invoice. After that, you can select any item from that invoice that you want to return as per your requirement. Now click on Save button or press End on your keyboard to save the credit note. After that, let's look into the report of the credit note, and the sales transaction that we have performed in our previous videos. Simply go to Report, click on a sales report, as there are many reports that can be viewed from the sales report. For now we will select Sales Book Report to view the report of sales transactions that we have performed. After that, we will select the date range as the filter option. As there are many filter options that can be used, you can select any filter option as per your requirement. And click on Run to view your sales book report. This is the sales invoice report generated by IMS software. As there are two invoices that will be generated by IMS software, you can view both of those invoices reports from a sales book report. After that, let's look at how to view the report of credit note transactions that we have performed. Simply go to Report, click on a sales report, and from that drop-down select Credit Note Book Report. Select the date range, and click on Run to view your credit note book report. This is the credit note report generated by IMS software. You can also view the report of VAT items that you have sold. Simply go to Report, click on VAT Report, and from that drop-down select VAT Sales Register Report. Now select the date range, and from these options, you can tick or untick any option that you want to display in this report. Though we have completed all three of these transactions, we will proceed with selecting all of the options. You can tick or untick any options as per your requirement. This is the VAT Sales Register report generated by IMS software. You can also view the report of the customer from the web accounting software. Now log in into the web accounting software, through the username and password provided by IMS Software. Simply go to the Financial Report, click on Ledger Report, and from that drop-down select Party Ledger Report, select the date range, click on this party account selection, and press Enter to select the account of the customer. You can also manually search for the customer on the basis of these filters. We'll select the name to search for the customer, and click on Run to view the Party Ledger Report of the selected customer. This is the Party Ledger Report generated by IMS Software. Now you can also view the reports of the payment terms that you have selected while doing the sales transaction. Simply go to the Financial Report, click on Ledger Report, and from that drop-down select Account Ledger Report, select the date range. Tick these two boxes, click on this account selection, and press Enter to select the account of the payment mode. We will search for the PhonePe and select it, then click on Run to view the report of that particular payment mode. This is the Account Ledger Report generated by IMS Software. We sincerely hope that watching this video helped you to understand how to save your sales invoices, sales return, and view the reports of sales transaction from the application. If you have any questions, please contact us through IMS support.